that I see some of their names.
Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Murray. We'll turn to Senator Rounds. And, Mr. Secretary, just so you know, our votes have started, so you're going to see us popping in and out here. Don't take that as
Chairman.
lack of interest.
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you, Secretary Burgum. I want to follow up a little bit on the Native American tribes as well. And I just, first of all, I've appreciated the working relationship that you've had with the tribes in the North and South Dakota region. And one area in particular that they have expressed concern, and you've heard about it before, and that is that most Great Plains tribal law enforcement agencies are understaffed, and with as few as 2 officers responsible for patrolling millions of acres during a single shift. They've come up with a recommendation. They'd like to be able to hire more law enforcement officers, but part of the challenge is that in order to get them set up, they've literally got to travel to New Mexico to get trained. And tribal law enforcement leaders often point to that as being one reason why there's a shortage, because most of these young people coming into that profession don't want to go that far away for 6 months at a time. So one of the suggestions is could we also put in or work with, they have the option of doing work with local law enforcement as well and being trained, such as the South Dakota Law Enforcement Training Center and so forth. But we'd like to have more room for them, perhaps locally. And they may have talked to you about this already, but would you consider working with them in a cooperative effort to perhaps find a way to fund some additional spots in the Northern Great Plains for those law enforcement officers so they wouldn't have to travel for 6 months down to New Mexico?
Yeah, this is an idea I know that you and Senator Hoeven and others have worked on. We've had great collaboration on advanced training at the Camp Grafton in North Dakota. Adding basic training there, I think, would be helpful for recruiting for Northern Plains tribes and would be fully supportive of that.
And I think it would save some money as well, just in terms of travel costs. Let me also just suggest the relationship with our tribal leaders is critical, and they really appreciate the consultation that, and sometimes it's lacking. And we'd like to rebuild that again. Over the last several years, some Great Plains tribes have experienced violent crime rates of up to 5 times higher than the national average. Tribal leaders have indicated that despite their efforts, these rates remain alarmingly high. Several have proposed establishing a cross-jurisdictional commission to directly address violent crime. This proposed body could include relevant officials from the Department of the Interior and the Department of Justice. So not just such as you and another secretary, but to have a built-in program where your folks could meet with their folks on a regular basis. As the tribal nations continue to deal with threats of public safety, would you consider working with the tribal leaders on this initiative?
Yeah, absolutely.
I think it would really add a lot, and I think we'd get a lot of stuff done in a short period of time with that type of a joint commission type approach. Thank you. And then finally, I want to hit an item with regard to minor fence line disputes. We just went through this with the Department of Agriculture and the Forest Service. So the Department of the Interior land management agencies oversee hundreds of millions of acres of land throughout the United States. Laws such as the Federal Land Policy and Management Act authorize a multiple-use approach for public lands, allowing producers to utilize federal grazing leases. Concerned landowners in western South Dakota have approached my office regarding minor fence line disputes between producers and federal officials, specifically after we had that type of a situation come up with the Department of Ag or the Department of Forestry. My understanding is that such disagreements are relatively common in areas with a high concentration of federal land. And just curious, do agencies within the Department of the Interior follow a standard mediation process for resolving these issues, or is this something that we need to look at?
I'm not aware, but I'd be happy to look at it. I'm familiar. We've got lots of U.S. grasslands from the U.S. Forest Service in western North Dakota. I own ranch land there, and I know that when you've got topography in the Badlands, that sometimes the fence line, it's impossible to put the fence line on the property line. And so, having these be mediated locally versus escalating into legal action would just be common sense.
And I think that's the approach we'd like to take. These farmers and ranchers have been on that for years. It's been back and forth, and most recently with the ability to do fence lines more accurately. Now we're finding pros and cons in terms of acres that may be on one side of a fence or on the other side of the fence either way, and rather than ending up in court, it seems to me that a mediation process would be a lot better way to approach these. And I would just appreciate your assistance if we can put that together for the Department of the Interior if it does not already exist.
That'd be great.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Senator Van Hollen, you're next.
Thank you, Senator. Welcome, Mr. Secretary. I do want to associate myself with